Hey everybody, my name is Edgar, and I'd like to welcome all of you to another episode of Defusing the WMSCOG. And today we got Zykera on the show, and I'm very excited to hear her story. She's an East Coast member, she's a wonderful person, and I'm going to go ahead and turn over the floor to her to allow her to introduce herself.
Hi guys, my name is Zykera, ex-member of Connecticut Zion, and I'm a 9-year ex-member from 2016 to 2025.
2016 to 2025. Okay. All right. So 9 years pretty much is a decade. That's a long time. So
Yeah, it
looking
feels like a
forward.
long time.
Yeah, definitely. And looking forward to hear more about your story. Let's go ahead and start off from the beginning. How was it that you were introduced to the World Mission Society?
Yeah, I was introduced by my sister, my younger sister. She was a member for a year, and she preached to me like from day one. And at that time, I was a college student. I had like 3 jobs. Um, and yeah, she actually invited me a couple times for a Bible study, but you know, I used to blow her off because she used to tell me like, "Oh, this is the only church, it's the only church," and I'm like, "Girl, like, yeah, everybody says that, but like this is the only church you like, this is the only true church," she would say, and I'm like, yeah. Anyway,
Before she invited you to the church, how was your relationship with your sister? Like, were you guys close? Did you guys talk about stuff like that? Were you guys like spiritual or anything like that?
no, I mean we believed in God, but you know, we didn't go to church. Like we weren't church goers. So but yeah, she didn't honestly, yeah, she didn't really go to church. Like I don't remember her going to church. Maybe when we were younger, we
Okay.
would go to church like our grandmother would bring us like, but no, no, not at all. When she joined, it was like a
360.
360.
And was
Yeah.
she older than you?
She's younger than me.
Younger than you. Okay. So when she brings you into the church, she was inviting you at first, and you were kind of blowing her off. How was it that she finally succeeded into actually getting you to go to the church?
So she would send me like little like I thought they were like quotes, but she was sending me like teachings of mother or Zangilja, and I thought they were like sweet. I thought they were like cute. I was like, "Oh, these are cute. These are sweet. Like I'm gonna try to do this. I'll try to put this into practice." And anyway, and then one day she just invited me, and I was up for it, and I went, and we studied the Sabbath day, and at the time it was good. I felt like I learned a lot, and I never studied the Bible while at church, so it was something new, it was something different, and I was just like, "Oh, okay, this is nice."
And who
No,
studied with you? Well, it wasn't your sister, was it?
no, it was she's a deaconess now, but it was a sister at the time, and she was like very like strong with like the Bible, like very strong teacher.
Okay, and was this like a house church, office church?
No, this was a church. It was actually the main temple.
Okay.
Yeah, the main
So
temple.
I feel like there's more pressure there because you see so many people already there. It's a bigger church, so it's kind of easier to follow suit and want to just be like everyone else. What was one of some of the first things you noticed when you stepped foot in there? Did you see any red flags right off the back, or was everybody just kind of love bombing you? What were you feeling like?
So it's funny that you say that because you just reminded me. And members will now they can attest to this because it's true. When I first got there, I told my sister, I was like, "You are so naive. They're lying. Like, there's no way they're happy all the time. These people don't care about you." Like, and I would tell her, like, "You're so naive. You really believe these people?" I would say like that all the time. Like, she's like, "No, they're genuine and this and that." And yeah, like, members are nice and there are, genuine members, but there's definitely love bombing. And I immediately picked up on it when I first was invited. That's why, like, when I think back, like, there's no way I probably would have joined the church, honestly, if it had not been for my sister inviting me.
Yeah.
you know. But anyway, yeah.
So, okay, so it was really because of your, like you said, your sister, obviously when we have a loved one that's in, it's a little bit easier we kind of let our guard down, you know what I mean? Because we trust the person that invites us. But in your case, I like how, your in your mind, you were already capturing those red flags. You were already knowing something was up, something was not feeling right. So, my question is, what made you lower your guard? How did they end up making you feel like, okay, this is the true church? Like the way we're acting is normal? Or did you always know in the back of your mind that it wasn't normal, but maybe it was the doctrine that really solidified it for you and you were like, man, I have to join because of the Bible studies?
So yeah, it was definitely the Bible studies.
Yeah.
Again, in the past when I would go to church, I never studied the Bible in the church. I mean, I'm just being honest, but and so right there, I was just like, oh, okay, so they are, Bible based, and they take it seriously. So and I was learning things I've never heard of before. I've never heard of King David, you know,
Yeah.
I've never even heard of the Sabbath. I've never heard of any of these things. So, when you're studying and you're going in these services and you're hearing like constantly, like, who can reveal this to us? Or like, there comes a point in time where you feel special. It makes you feel special. Like, wow, God chose me. Like, I'm the only one that knows this. So then I start to let my guard down because, you're feeling like, wow, God has opened my eyes. You hear constantly in that church that you're a sinner and you're lacking. Like, God could have chose anybody in the world, like more educated, more this, more that, but God chose me. So, I began to let my guard down because, I was feeling a little special.
Yeah.
So, I started to open up a little bit more and then, kind of think maybe I was being like too judgmental in the beginning,
Yeah.
So
That's
that's kind
very
that's
that's
kind of what happened.
I'm sorry to cut you out, but that's very interesting because to hear you say that, your story is already sounding a lot different than like other people that I've interviewed before. Because other people that I've interviewed, it was the love bombing or the acceptance that really like got them or hooked them. And you, on the other hand, you picked up on the red flags right away. You're like, there's no way these people are really that nice or that happy all the time, but it was the indoctrination and the Bible studies that really did it for you. And like you said, I mean, to someone that doesn't understand the Bible, doesn't have the basic fundamentals down, of course, you're going to be like totally blown away because everything that they say makes sense if you don't have those basic foundations down, those fundamentals. And I think you see that a lot as members of the church when you go and you encounter Christians on the street that actually know their Bible. You can't get away with a lot of the things that you get away with when you're talking to somebody that has no idea what the Bible says. So it's pretty fascinating to hear you say like it was really the doctrine that got you. So I guess my next question is, I know you mentioned King David, but and even Seal of God, but what was it really that like what made you want to get baptized? And then take me through that day. How long from when you first studied until the day that you got baptized? And what was the study that was like the final nail in the coffin that was like, okay, I got to get baptized? Or was it just like a series of all of them put together that made you want to get baptized? Just what was that whole experience like?
Good question. So yeah, I got baptized in June of 2016. I think I studied. It was at towards the end. I think it was the 25th or 26th of June 16th. 2016 is when I got baptized, and my first like time there was in the beginning of the month of June, and you know we did be baptized immediately. And after the study, I was like, oh, that's a great study. It was good. And then she was like, so what do you think? And I'm like, it was good. And then she's like, so do you want to get baptized? And I'm like, right now? And then she's like, yeah. I was like, no. I was like, I have work. My hair is straightened. And then she's like, oh, you're not gonna be that wet. It's just gonna be a sprinkle in your head. And then I said, oh, okay. I was like, will it be quick? Because I have to go to work. And she's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then we went and it wasn't a sprinkle. It was done. Like I was like, not done, but they did the
Yeah.
little pour. So I remember when like, I had my hands together, I like kind of jumped because I was just like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of water. She said it was gonna be a little sprinkle, but yeah, no. So that was my
So
baptism experience.
So lying to you from the get-go, from the jump. I think that that's something
Yeah,
that's very common. You hear that a lot in these type of stories. Sometimes like members don't even know what they're getting baptized into. They've never even heard An San Hong before, they're already starting to pour water over you. And it's
yeah,
it's it's funny hearing you say that they're trying to rush you into this. And
mhm,
it's funny, like you even mentioned, I got to go to work, and they even said, like, no, this is quick, knowing well how long the process is. I don't know
yeah,
at that time if you guys already like had to pre-fill out the book of life. But that in itself is a long process. And then, going to the changing room and then getting into the baptism area,
mhm,
then going and getting dried and dressed, come back out, and
yeah,
then you keep the Passover, and so it's crazy that they said that. And also, what stands out to me is like they asked you, just like in every story, like 99.9% of the stories I've heard, it's always the church asking the person, hey, do you want to get baptized? But in the
mhm,
Bible, it's the opposite. It's always the person that hears the gospel message that asks, can I be baptized? What stops me from being baptized? So I think, just hearing you say, even from the very beginning, like the way that the WMS does things, it's a contradiction to scripture.
mhm.
But anyway, so you get baptized. How do you feel after that process was over, after they told you it wasn't going to take that long? First of all, like, how'd you feel? Did you say anything to them or anything?
Yeah, I think before I lose my thought because what you're saying, I just want to bounce off what you're saying. I think I think members they don't really realize that they're being deceitful because a lot of it is justified by, well, this is for their salvation. So they don't realize that actually you're being dishonest and that's deceitful and that may rub someone the wrong way. Because you're justifying in your mind like, oh, well, they need this for their salvation. They need to keep the Passover. But after I was baptized, I felt good because I was baptized, so I felt like I did a good thing. So, yeah, I went to work, but then after, like, they just like went crazy, like like they kept having my sister call me, like to bring me, and I remember telling her like, stop calling me, like you know um like I think we did because like we did a study, seal of God, the sealing work of God or something like that, like, or I'm saying the sealing work of God, like I don't know, right? And God put the work of God putting a seal.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that just scared me, and I was like, I'm not ready, like I'm not ready, like I'm not ready to dedicate my life to this, like you guys seem very serious and I'm just not ready. So I kind of was just like, all right, it was something I did and I just want to put it in the back. But yeah, they kept having my sister call me and like, and bring me back.
Just hearing you say that is stressing me out because
Yeah.
it seems like even from like the beginning, you picked up on the red flags. They kind of force you into this baptism. Like, of course, you're believing this doctrine, but it's because you don't know any better. You don't know the fundamentals of the Bible. Then after you do what they ask you to do, you would think, because usually I don't know in your situation, but most of the stories I heard, people are under the impression that after you get baptized like they ask you to and keep this Passover, that you're good. But then
Yeah.
you find out, no, actually this is just the beginning. Now you got to go all in, and then they're blowing you up, and then you start to realize, like, wait a second, like this is gonna be something that I didn't sign up for. Like, this is gonna be like a 24/7 thing. And that's what they don't tell you from the very beginning. So maybe take me through that. Like, how were you feeling when they were hitting you up and like, obviously, since you were in there for 9 years, eventually they had to break you. They had to get you to come in. So, like, how was that?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly how I felt. I felt like, I kept the Passover, I'm good then. And then, we did I came back like, sometime that following week after my baptism, we did the work of God putting a seal. And then I was like, oh, serious. And then she was like, telling me like there's other things like we have to be, basically found well, like spotless before, God come, or like correct with the correct mind. What is our mind? How do you want God to find you? And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so like pressure. This is heavy, like work. So I started putting it off, and then they would invite me to like fun activities. Like instead of Bible study, they invited me to New Windsor to this like bonanza thing that they were having. Like, they were having this thing, that's when I first met Daniel Lee. Um, like fun activities to, basically say, I think, at the time it was trying to like say like, oh, we can have fun. We're having fun. Like, we're not just Bible study and things like that. Cause I was just like, all right, this is just too much.
Right.
Um, but I started having nightmares from the studies. Like I would have nightmares that it's the last day and then God comes and then, like I'm left and the 144,000 ascends, like, and I remember like, and this is, mind you, like I remember this June I was baptized. So June, July, August, I already pre-planned a trip to Miami or Tampa, Florida to meet my best friend. And this was like a year all out plan. Like the plane ticket was already paid for and everything. And I remember like going on the trip and just like not enjoying myself because, I felt like I was going to be punished by God because, I'm not keeping the Sabbath day or like, I'm not doing the will of God. So, and that's like what that's only like 3 months. Like that's the kind of hold that they had at that
Yeah.
time. But and I think, at that time, I was afraid to get on the plane because I'm just like, oh my gosh, what if I get punished? What if the plane crashes because I'm not doing the will of God? So, um, yeah. And anyway, I told God, I was like, I'll do your will. Like, please, like, um, just get me home safely or, whatever. And then, I'll behave. I'll keep the Sabbath. And then that's when I started like keeping the Sabbath.
Wow. That is like, again, I really feel for you because, you know, 3 months in and you're already having nightmares, fearing for your life. You know what I mean? Like you're already trying to live your life and it's already like taken from you. Your mentality's changed
Yeah.
all because of what they've taught you. And it's so telling to me because sometimes, members might not, the especially the current members that might be hearing this, they're like, oh, I didn't feel that type of way, or the studies were awesome. But that's a good point that you bring up, the nightmares, because whether or not you perceive that what they're doing to you, your subconscious is a different thing. Even though you might have been like thinking outwardly their intentions are good, right? They're not trying to lead me astray, or, my guard is down. I love the Bible studies. But what your subconscious was picking up was the fear tactics, the fear
Mhm.
mongering, the fear of hell, destruction, the not being good enough. If you're doing something that's up outside of World Mission Society, you were scared your plane was going to go down. You were afraid something was going to happen to you on your trip, and you're having nightmares about these things. And this is 3 months in. That's
Right.
a huge red flag. That's not normal behavior. You go to God to find peace, not the opposite direction, right? And like, it's just so crazy to me, like the amount of pressure that members are put on, even from the very beginning, even if they're not aware of it. So after you come back from the trip, how long, like when you came into the church, you come back from the trip, you said a minute ago, I decided I'm gonna, I want to do the gospel work. If you, let me survive, the flight back. So like, did you come back and go all into the church, or did it still take a while? Take me through that.
So it did. It still took a while, but not a long time. I got back. I got back home safe, and I did a couple Bible studies, and I came for the Sabbath, but I came for like, I think like a third service, like, evening service, and um, then I would do like a third day service, little by little. I would do, um, you know, like I would increase like, keeping a service. And I remember a deaconess told me, she's like, if you really want to go and grow in faith, you should keep the feast of God, all the feasts. So I said, okay. And then after I kept like the autumn feast, like I've never missed a service after that. Like,
There was no
but
looking back.
there was no looking back. But it's so strange because even at that time, it's so crazy. After like the last day, like of the Feast of Tabernacles, like the last and greatest day, right, of the feast. I don't know why. Like it was like the weirdest thing. Like I don't know why, but I had this weird thought. The last day, I was like so happy. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like da da da. But out of nowhere, this thought came up. It was like, I'm someone that is not God, and I'm like it scared the heck out of me. I'm like, what? Like, why? Like, no, I believe it. I'm thinking like, wait, is he God? Like, and I started having like these thoughts like, I don't think he's God. And it got so bad that I actually went to the overseer about those thoughts. Like, I don't know why. Like, I'm having these thoughts, like, that Ansang Hong, I'm questioning him. I don't know why. It just popped up out of nowhere. And then he was just like, he's like, sister, it's because you're uh like arrogant, like and like, basically like our it's my arrogance, thinking that I know something and I don't, like it's my sinful nature fighting against me. And but I'm like, but I want to believe, like, the Bible studies, they make sense. So I don't know why this is like I don't know why these thoughts are happening. And he was just like, oh, it's because of sinful nature. But yeah, and I remember him saying like, make sure it just doesn't come out of your mouth, like, and he scared me because he's just like, you don't want to say it, like, don't let it come out. Right. And I was like, okay. And he's like, and also don't share that thought with members because you don't want to infect them with that kind of thought. And I remember feeling like so bad and also like it being so serious, like, wow, like I'm such a sinner. And that also kept me in too, because I'm just like, wow, I really am so arrogant and I'm like, even though like these things are like making sense to me, like why are these thoughts like coming in? But maybe it was like my conscience just trying to let me know, like from rip, like no, this is not it. Like
Yeah,
looking back now, I'm thinking like that's probably like my conscience, my Holy Spirit. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that because I've said this before in some of my videos is that one of the things that they're very good at is making you question your conscience, your gut feeling,
Yeah.
and I think, or the critical part, you know what I mean, like the critical thinking ability, they take that from you. And what they do is they don't just take it from you. They don't say no, like this cannot be used. They turn it into something evil. So in your case, they took that thought that you had, your intuition, your conscience, your spirit, and they said that's arrogance. So they turned it into something evil. And I think that that is very telling and a huge red flag of any cult, because what they're doing is they're already telling you anytime you feel some type of way, when you're used to following your gut, God gave you those abilities, right? He gave you those gut feelings. He gave you a conscience for a reason. He gave you your logical mind. He allowed you to critically think. But by them taking that away from you, they're crippling you already. They're making you feel that that is of the devil, that that is Satan, that it's arrogance, that it's this and that, so that you will never doubt them, so that you'll pledge full allegiance to them. You'll never question it. And not only that, but they made it a point to not even share it with anybody else. That's called damage control. When in reality, if this was a truthful organization that is all about the truth, they don't just say they have the truth, they have the perfect exclusive truth. Their God is testified through the 66 books of the Bible. If they were so confident that instead of answering your question in that way by trying to fearmonger you, why not build up your faith through the scriptures? And
Mhm.
obviously they can't do that because they have to follow the script, you know. And again, the script is very powerful and strong, but it's not true. And so sometimes your logic pushes against that. But again, they did a very good job from the very beginning of trying to keep that to a minimum and turn the volume down on your critical thinking. And I think that's important to highlight. So afterwards, after that conversation, did you just suppress that and just say, okay, you know what? He is God. I just have to trust my leader and just do what I got to do? Or was it still on the back burner, but you just didn't mention anything?
Yeah, I'm like hesitant to share, I guess, this because, I don't want members to, or ex-member, like, current members. I don't want current members to think like, oh, wow, she never had faith or she never believed. Because I did. I did end up believing. But yeah, I suppressed it and I remember yeah, I just prayed to God take away my arrogance, but I remember having a hard time like fully accepting that he was second coming Christ. And I remember doing like the LRE was out. I forgot what year, but I was like, all right, this is like the time, like this is like God's really trying to like build my faith up because like, I want to have a stronger faith in Ansang Hong, right? And I remember going there and I remember after like doing the LRA crying because I'm just like, wow, why don't I feel like more convicted? Like like my conviction is not like, like he is the savior, he's it, he's the one. And it wasn't until uh I think there was an education like given, and I forgot what the education was about. But I remember him saying, if you want to believe, you'll believe. If you don't want to believe, you won't believe. And I remember saying to myself, I choose to believe. And after that, like no more weird thoughts. And I just chose to believe and I just believed it.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
And no, it does. It does because I think to a certain extent, everybody that comes in, I would say that you'd have to be a fool to not have, thoughts like that when you first come in. Because if not, then what stops you from believing in anything? You know what I mean? Like you have to have those thoughts. You're wrestling with those thoughts. I had those thoughts like, man, I got to be 100% sure that I'm following true God. You know what I mean? But again, because we didn't have that foundation, we didn't understand what the scripture said. We didn't understand, let alone not only did we understand the scriptures, if we would have known the true history of this church, from the rip, we would have never have gotten in. But again, they only tell us what they want us to know, right? And so I think that has a lot to do with us getting sucked in more and more and more into the church. So okay, so now you're all in. Now my question is, how far do you get in the church? Like, are you a Bible teacher? Are you a unit leader, group leader? What was your roles in the church?
So I made it to team leader.
Okay.
And yeah, I did study the Bible. So I guess I can say I was a Bible study teacher. Um, but yeah, I did. Yeah, there's a lot happened in the 9 years. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I think like 2 years in, 2 years in, or maybe like a year of me being in, my sister fell away, the one that preached to me. And like that was a rough time because, what we are taught in the church is like if someone like is outside the church, they're not going to go to heaven. let alone a person who knows the truth. If they leave, then they're not only going to go to hell, but they're going to be tortured. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a verse that says like those who are responsible for much, so like more is going to be expected, or beating or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. But so I was like really like I was heartbroken and I was scared for her like salvation. And I remember our deaconess telling me like if you really want to like save her, you know, you should grow in faith. So that's when I really started to, you know,
Yeah.
go like hardcore. Because I wanted to save, not only my sister but my family too. So yeah. But so I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's just hearing what you're saying is just, oh, your story is like really hitting me because I'm just thinking how much like I'm really seeing the culty vibes from hearing your story. Like even how they take these things that happen in all of our lives, like just things that happen and they use it to their advantage. They're always looking for the smallest window, the smallest opportunity to capitalize in order to make you go deeper inside the church. And so that was like a very, they took, okay, well, her sister might have fell away. How can we use this situation to draw her closer and get her to go deeper into the church? And it worked. It seems like it worked. Like you said, you went all in. So my question is, during your time there, now that your sister's out, when all that was going on, I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but like what made her leave? And like, did she try to bring you out after she left, or what was that
So
like?
my sister, she left because she was still, college, you know, to be gracious. She left. She wanted to basically, live her young life, pretty much, in a
Right,
nutshell. And yeah, so that's why I also felt like sad, like, how can you leave? Like there's
right.
nothing out in the world. I'm sorry, I didn't hear. What was your other question?
No, no, that was pretty much my question is like it, how she left, why she left, and like did
Yeah,
she
no,
try to
she wasn't
get you
trying
to
to bring
come
me
out?
out. She
Okay.
still very much believed the doctrine, too. She yeah, no, she believed in it's so funny. I think that sometimes we're taught like different things. I was taught like if you leave the church, you like lose your mind, you go crazy. And I don't know if you were taught that.
I
Um,
was.
yeah, you like lose your mind. I remember talking to my my mother-in-law. She said, "Oh, I don't remember hearing that." And I was like, "No, I definitely was taught like you leave, you lose your mind." And I believed it because my sister like she left and she just well, she didn't lose her mind. She was just living her young life. But
Yeah.
in the eyes of like in the church, it's like, wow, she lost her mind. Like she's like partying, she's doing that, but she's just college, living
Yeah.
her like life. But so I was like really afraid to even entertain the fact of like leaving because I didn't want to like lose my mind. I didn't want to lose my spot in heaven and things like that. But no, she didn't. She very much believed the doctrine, and she said even while she was like out in like the world, even though she was like she could never like 100% enjoy herself because she always would like think like I'm gonna go to hell after this, like I'm going to hell. And it kind of like also she said it kind of made her feel like, well then I'll just do anything because I'm going to hell anyway. You know what I mean? Like so it
Yeah.
makes you even so I think that's probably why people members like and when they leave they kind of go crazy because it's just like, well, I'm going to hell anyway.
Yeah.
So which is sad, but
It's very unfortunate, but also hearing you say that makes me think because like they say, I definitely heard that by the way. Like I think that it varies by Zions and leaders. You hear different things, but I definitely remember hearing that from certain leaders. Like, yeah, if you ever leave Zion, you'll lose your mind. And I remember here in Wichita, Kansas, they used to use a brother named Matthew. They used to use him as an example of like someone who left, who questioned mother and like lost his mind. and which is nonsense, you know what I mean? Like, but isn't it funny? Like, hearing your story, you're saying, yeah, my sister left to go, to the world. That's how the church paints it, but like you said, she went to school. And it's so funny because it's kind of like they think, oh, she went to the world, she's going to school, she's lost her mind. When in reality, that's more of someone that that is actually showing someone who has more of her mind intact than us who are still in the church, you know what I mean, who are being brainwashed and what I mean, got us believing all types of nonsense, you know what I mean. And so it's so crazy how they reverse the roles and make you feel that way, you know what I mean. And it's crazy to hear you say that. But I'm glad your sister's out. I'm happy to hear that you're out now as well. So take me now to your story, continue from there. So you go all in, the whole situation with your sister happens, makes you go deeper in, because in your mind, like, okay, I don't want to go to the world, there's nothing out there for me, right? So this is it, this is my life now. So like when you went all in, tell me some of the stories that you went through, like, where you feel that you were like deeply lost in the sauce. Give me some of the stories where it was like Zykera was 144,000. What was some of those missions that you were on when you were in the church?
Yeah, so for me, I don't know about anyone else, but I know I hear some stories about it, but I was in college when I joined the church. I was encouraged to stop going. I don't know about anyone else, but I remember being told, like, especially 2016, there was a song like Let's Cheer Up and Grow in Faith, Heaven Kingdom, that one.
Heaven's kingdom is near.
Heaven Kingdom is near, right? And so it was like I was encouraged to like stop going to school. Like we have to preach to 7 billion, like this is mother's will. And so I stopped. And I remember like 2 years after the fact, I'm just working. Ayuba starts to pick up and like me just being confused because, it's college mission. And I'm like, wait, like, isn't the last day coming? Like, why is this a college mission? And like being confused, right? And I remember, I'm still young. I was 20, you know, when I dropped out of college. And so now I'm like 22. So I went to speak to a deaconess and I said, oh, like Ayuba, like, is like picking up, or I would love to like join that mission. Maybe I can go back to school. And I remember her saying, like, sister, just focus on the gospel. Let the young kids worry about that. Mind you, I'm 22. So, and, I'm not old at all. Actually, I should have went back, but I
Yeah.
listened to her. I said, you know what? Yeah, I should just focus on the gospel and just let the young kids who just got out of high school focus on that. So yeah, that was a lot of my experience. Like unfortunately, I did trust the leaders a lot, and I would always like go to the leaders for um like advice because I feel like we're like, I mean, for lack of a better word, like kind of groomed to respect and revere our leaders because, Heavenly Mother put them in that spot. So, trusting in them is like trusting in God,
Yeah.
who placed them there. So, when I would, wanna like do certain things, like certain missions, I would always like, consult my leader and, see what they think.
Tell me some of the stories that you went through to kind of show that you had this faith, you know what I mean, that because
Oh, okay,
a lot
thank
of
you.
members
Yeah.
will ask you, like, they'll say, oh, this person never believed, this person
Yeah.
never had faith to begin with. What are some of the moments that you can remember that you can say, like, no, no, bro, this is me showing that I had faith, look at what I did here?
Well, I was in Meriden, Zion. So like 2 years after my baptism, I was transferred over to like a branch church to help build it up. And like honest to God, only me and one other sister would come preaching. every day. We were told to come every day. We were encouraged. We were told to come. Like if we weren't coming, like we were called. Like, where are you, sister? Like, or oh, I'm doing laundry. Oh, sister, why don't you do laundry? At this time, like you should come to Zion and preach. Or we should gather in Zion. So yeah, I was there. I was
Yeah.
the only one there with another sister, but yeah, I remember there was a deaconess. It's so funny. I have like this strange, like weird, like kind of like I forgot what it's called. It's like when someone is like not nice to you, you end up loving them. I forgot what that's called.
I know what you mean,
You know what I
but
mean? Like
I don't
they're
want to butcher the word.
yeah, but
But I know what
you
you
know,
mean.
it's like when someone's like nasty to you and then you end up loving your abuser kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, abuse is a very strong word, but honestly, like she was like not really nice.
Yeah.
She
Yeah,
was like
no, I
she's
get it.
not a nice deaconess, and like a lot of members were like afraid of her, a lot of the children, because she was like really nasty. But
I,
and I know that she knows that she was not nice because when she like left she was transferred, she told me she was like share only good things about me, okay? And I was like, okay.
wow.
But
You real quick, Zakira. So I looked it up. Stockholm syndrome.
oh yeah, Stockholm.
Stockholm syndrome is proposed condition to explain why hostages occasionally develop a psychological bond with their captors. And I think that that's a very good way to put it because yes, you feel like this affection for these people who are actually abusing you mentally and spiritually. You know what I mean? I felt the same way. And
Mhm.
before I let you continue, I just want to bring up a couple of things. You mentioned two things that brought back so many memories, even for me. You brought up the song Heaven's Kingdom is Near and the huge deal that the church made about that song. I remember I was ready to like leave, put everything on hold once I heard that song. This is how ridiculous it is. They made a whole thing about that song. It was a huge deal. And like that song, like I remember we started doing marches and
Right.
like we were singing that song every service. And it's like it's putting you in that mindset of like we're about to go to heaven. And they wonder why people say they're a doomsday cult that's always talking about the last day. And the last day, this is why, because they were doing these type of things, these type of events. But anyway, go ahead and continue. So what are besides the moments you already mentioned, what were some other things that you did in the church that really like looking back at it now, you were like, I was really lost in the sauce during that time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's like I just I feel like it's like hard to even put into words because it's just like if you were in it, you would understand.
Right.
But yeah, just going back on that deaconess. I remember we did like the walkathon and I forgot where we did the walkathon, but it was for Mozambique. And I was part of the cheer squad. And I probably like I think I had like heat stroke or something. I got really sick after. And I wasn't really drinking any water. It was hot that day. And I remember standing, waiting to get on the bus. And I was kind of like, dizzy. My head kind of hurt. And I remember I sat down and that deaconess, she saw me. And like, I don't know if for like the East Coast is like, if you are a member and you've been in the truth for a certain amount of years, you should like kind of like put on a good face. Like you should always like be happy. You should always be smiling. You should always set an example. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that deaconess saw that my face was like kind of like down and because I genuinely wasn't feeling good. So she came up to me, she's sister, why is your face like that? I said, oh, I'm not feeling too good, like and she's like, well, what's the matter? I said, my head is hurting. Like I was like, my head hurts really bad. Kid you not. She got up and she just smacked me like in my face, like my head twice, like bang, bang, hard. And then she's like, how does that feel? That feels better. And I'm like, yeah. But
What?
I remember thinking like, oh, maybe it's because I'm not, like setting a good example. Maybe I'm grumbling, complaining. I remember thinking like that, but like when I think back on these things that these moments that happen, I'm like, why did I allow that? Like, you know what I mean? Like any other, like if I was in my sane mind, I probably would have cursed her out. Like, what the hell are you doing? But I genuinely wasn't feeling good. But there's
Wow.
so many different moments like that. Like she's just like, and it's so weird because like when now that I'm out of the church, I'm like, why did I love her so much? It's so strange. Like this lady made me cry so many times. I remember one time we were like sitting and we were like eating and like we have like little flyaways. Like I don't know if you know what flyaways are, but
No.
they're like when your hair is like sticking up. And she's just sitting there. She's like, sister, you have these like flyaways. And she starts like pulling my hair and I'm like trying to move away, like, oh my gosh. And even her husband, who was a missionary at the time, he's really nice. He looked at her, he's like, stop, what are you doing? And then like she sat down. She would do like these weird like things. And yeah, she was like, I remember one time she told me, she was like, sister, she's like, she's like, you'll be prettier if you stop talking or you didn't talk so much. And I was like, oh, okay. God bless you. Thank you. But I mean, like, these are like, when I look back, I'm like, wait, why did I like
Wow.
I remember we would butt heads when I first got to that like location, we would butt heads a lot because I used to think that she was like racist. Not saying she is racist, but that's just how I thought. But then like over time I was just thinking like, oh, maybe that's just my arrogant mind, whatever the case may be. Not saying that she's racist, but I'm just saying like my thoughts when I first, you
Yeah.
know, was switched over there. And, I remember I gave a fragrance. It was just me and that sister that would come, the only two sisters that would come. And we watched this video. They wanted us to watch it. Missionary and her wanted us to watch this video, and we watched it. And I gave fragrance, and like she was just like, she like rebuked my fragrance. She said it was wrong. And I was like, how? I was like, how is it wrong? I said, Father Miller allowed me to have this realization. Like, how is it wrong? She's like, it's wrong. And I was like, what? I was just like so confused. And then she was just like, she herself, she said, Americans are stupid. So I said, why did you come here then? And then missionary, he's trying to like diffuse the situation, and I forgot what he said, but he said something in favor of her. And so I said I feel like you guys are ganging up on me. Like I'm so confused. I'm just giving a fragrance, like, and I don't know what happened. Like I don't know how it ended, but I remember telling them like I feel like you guys are ganging up on me. Like I don't know, I'm just trying to give a fragrance. God allowed me to realize this, like, like what's up. And so it ended. I went home. I was kind of upset about it. And I remember that like happened on like during the week. And then that following Sabbath, we went to the main church and we watched the same video. The pastor put up the same video. And then he asked for anyone. He's like, anybody has fragrance? And then he looked at me. He's like, Zahira, do you have fragrance? Come up here, get fragrance. And I was like, no, I don't have any fragrance. Because I knew like I was like, he probably just wants to rebuke me, but I'm so confused. Like, what what did I even do? I literally, what did I even do? He's like, come get fragrance, come up here. And I said, no, thank you. He's like, no, no, come. He's like, you didn't realize anything? I said, no. He's like, oh, okay. He's
And
like,
this
did anyone else have fragrance? And no one went up, but
and this is Daniel Lee.
no, this is Paul Cha.
Okay. I've heard of him too. Yeah.
Mhm.
Just hearing you say that makes me angry. And it's like, let's go back first to the you say her smacking you in the head. Who does that?
Yeah.
What church? Who told these people that that is normal behavior? That's not even normal behavior in the outside world, like
Yeah.
outside of a church, much less inside a church. And this lady has a position in
Yeah.
the church.
She was like, it was so weird. Like she was like tough. She was rough. I remember we cooked one time and I had cut lemons or the limes. I had cut the limes and forgot to wash the limes. And I cut them and then she looked at me and she said, "Did you wash them?" I was like, "Oh no, I didn't know I had to wash them." And she pushes them. She's like, "Then eat them yourself." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "What the heck?" Like,
Yo,
like I'm like,
this
all right.
this lady's got to chill. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, she sounds like a character. I'm really interested in knowing who this is, because yeah, that is not normal behavior. She needs to be called out on that. She
Yeah.
sounds like a jerk. I'm not gonna defend that type of behavior. She might not be racist. Who knows what goes on in her mind, whatever it is, but she's a jerk. Just from what you're telling me, that is
Mhm.
not okay behavior anywhere. That is not acceptable. And it just shows you again, these are the type of people that the church puts in leadership. You know what I mean? And again, leadership reflects character, right? And so if they're, even like you said, even when her husband got involved, he took her side when all you were doing was giving a fragrance. And I'm sorry, what was it again that she exactly told you about the American culture or Americans?
Yeah, Americans. She was like, Americans are stupid. It was a video about like the American mindset and then the Korean mindset and like different perspective. But I was saying that, now that I'm in Zion, I have a heavenly like perspective. So it's neither Korean or American kind of thing. And like she like tried to correct me. I'm like, what? And anyway,
So the right answer in her mind would have been for you to say,
Korean
yes,
or something.
Korean culture is
Yeah.
the correct culture. And this is what
Yeah.
I mean when I say that I don't care. I'll say it out in the open. I'm airing them all the way out. This place is racist. There's so no one can convince me they're not racist. I've heard stories from all over the world of people that said this place is racist. Leaders that are talking to me right now that are saying there's racism going on even right now. So hearing you say that just validates the same point that we've been hearing over and over and over again. You know, even from the beginning, missionary Ron, some of the people that first joined the church has not
Yeah.
changed from the beginning till even right now, the present time. These people are the same. Why? Because the direction comes from the top. And so they can try to argue themselves out. They can say, oh, well, the church is ran by imperfect people, it's ran by sinners. Okay, well, what if the Catholic Church tries that? That wouldn't fly, right?
Mhm.
But for them, they always have a justification for it. And so I hope that if they're listening to this, whoever did all that stuff, I hope that she gets reprimanded for it because they need to call her out. That's bullcrap. Nobody should go through that. That's not correct behavior. That's bully behavior. And the thing, this is what makes me upset. And this is why I'm glad that you're talking about it. Thank you for being vulnerable, because the reason why we speak out is because, for one, you get to tell your side of the story, but also by saying these type of things, even though they're sensitive, it's in the hopes that other people that might be under this same person don't have to go through the same things that you went through. And I think that that's very important to mention that. So since we're already on the subject, red flags, what other red flags did you experience during your time in this church?
Yeah, I remember it's staying on the topic with her. I mean, there were so many, I was always around her because, I was in that location. So I, I witnessed a lot of different things that she would do. But I remember one time she was also in charge of like the kids' room, or she would watch the kids' room. And, this was like, I mean, I think I was like 6 years in, and, or maybe I was like 5 years in. I don't really remember, maybe 6 or 5 years in. But we were talking about different ideas or different events we can throw, you know, at the church. And, she would have the kids come and show her the plates, like their finished plates, like they're done eating. And one young brother came up, and I think he still goes with his mom. He came up and he showed her the plate, and it was empty. And she looked at him. She said, "Did you finish all your food?" He said, "Yeah." She's like, "Where are your grapes?" And he said, "Oh, I threw them away." She said, "Did I say you were allowed to throw them away?" He said, "No." She's like, "Go get them out the trash and eat them." And I remember thinking, like, "You're really gonna make him eat out the trash?" And she's like, "Do it." And like he went, but I didn't see him go pick it out the trash. I think he went and like he just sat down. He like was solemn, but I remember thinking like, "You're gonna make him eat out the trash?" At that moment, I should have, you know, known something was wrong. But when you're in there, you just think that, like, I don't know, like this is like the will of God, I guess. But
And
there's this, hmm?
was that the same person?
This is the same person.
Yo,
But
she's
she
gonna.
was she was known to be tough on the kids. Like kids were afraid of her. I think she was allowed to like, spank the kids. I remember one deaconess, she said that she hit her son like she's like, yeah, she hit her son like hard once and she left a mark. Um, but she said like I think she's a changed deaconess because that sister went and approached her and told her like, hey, you left a mark on my son. And like she just starts crying, I'm so sorry, sister, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, da da da. But
This is vile behavior. Honestly, the children are scared of her. She's
yeah,
done. I'm assuming if she listen, let's be transparent. If someone like that gets away with what you already explained that she did to you, if the children are even intimidated by her, how many more victims, has she done this to?
yeah,
And it's just wild to me. And again, going back to even she has the goal to even strike an adult, she's gonna end up catching the right person on the wrong day, and
yeah.
something's gonna happen.
She's on the West Coast now.
Yeah, it's people like that, you know what I mean? It's like that they do that, because it just shows you they're used to getting away with behavior like that. But I'm glad that you're exposing that now, because hopefully, like I said, now that it's being talked about, I really hope that she doesn't continue to get away with that type of behavior. So like I always say in my videos, World Mission Society, we know you're listening. Make sure you handle that. You guys are very good at reacting to everything that we say. Well, do something about it, because members should not be treated like that. That is not okay. This is why we call you a cult, because of things like that are allowed and they happen on a daily basis. This isn't just one story. We hear it all the time. So please do something about it. Okay. But anyway, go ahead, Zykera, take it away with the red flags. Cause yeah, I'm sorry. That one just really, this person, I haven't even met them. I don't even know their name. And
I
I'm
think
already
no,
like,
I think you did meet them before. I mentioned it before. It's Deaconess Jehi.
wow.
Do you know her?
I don't know her. I don't know her, but now I remember you mentioning that. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you aired it out, because like I said, we're not gonna pull any punches here. And I like
I'm
that.
sure she knows. I'm sure she knows.
Yeah. And
There's yeah, go ahead.
and mention her name one more time.
Deaconess Jehi.
Okay. Any members from the East Coast or West Coast that know her and have any experiences with her as well, please hit me up. Hit me up on the emails, because something tells me that she didn't just do this to you. If the kids were affected by it, you were affected by it. I guarantee you, people like that, abusers like that, leave a trail. It's just that a lot of people don't have the guts to do what you're doing right now. And so I commend you for it. I really do, because again, this is going to help many people. But anyways, Akira, go ahead and continue with the red flags. What else did you experience while you were in this cult?
Yeah, yeah, so there was another time like after she was transferred, like I want to say my 6th year, she was transferred. There's other things that happened too. And like, I feel like I'm just sharing all. I mean, we're here to share.
Air it out. Air it
We're here
out.
to share, like, I guess it all, right?
Yeah,
Um, I'm not saying that my all of my experience in the church was like terrible. Like I did have some good times, like, and I had some good bonds with like, what I thought I had good bonds because now, they don't talk to me and they're not allowed to, I believe. But I did have like good connections in the church. I mean, I was in there for 9 years, so I'm not saying that it's all like bad, but I'm just, you're asking for the red flag, so I'm sharing, the bad that I experienced there,
for
right?
sure.
Because I think it's also important for people to know, um, because this church just parades like it's just the best thing that ever happened to the earth, and it's not like that. Um, But yeah, I think like, before she like was leaving, I felt like we were getting closer. So sometimes like like I'm like an active laugher. So like when I laugh, like I engage. I'll maybe like grab your arm, to laugh or whatever. Like that kind of laugh. Like I was having that hearty laugh. Like we were all like at the table and we were laughing. And I like grabbed her arm and like I went to like laugh and she was laughing at first and then like she just like switched. It was like so weird. She switched, she snatched away from me and she like smacked my arm. She's like,
Oh,
she's like, she's like, don't touch me. Stop touching me like that. I'm not your friend. And I'm like so confused. I'm like, what? I thought we were like close. And even the sisters there, they were so shocked, like, what? Like you just like did a 360. So weird. So weird. But yeah, and I don't understand why I would tell people that I loved her. She was like the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And she was like not nice. I remember I would go home crying and I remember praying to God like she's so tough or she's so like everything I say I'm getting rebuked or I'm getting corrected like like and I'm trying my best. I'm here every single day, I'm preaching every single day. I'm doing everything they ask, and I'm always getting corrected. I think they wanted to like just beat me into submission, like like to use me for whatever they want to like use me for, like whatever they wanted me for. But they needed to beat me into submission first. But
yeah.
yeah,
You
I
know,
know.
that is honestly, like, I'm glad that we mentioned earlier about the Stockholm syndrome, because that's literally what it sounds like. And she's, the more you talk about her, is just like, bruh, this lady needs some help. Honestly, like she cannot be all up there. Something is seriously wrong with her. And it also makes me, it reminds me of one of the missionaries that we had in the Midwest. I've mentioned him plenty of times, missionary Michael. He was just like that. And a lot of members, like, they loved him because he was so strict, and the things he would do to people. He would humiliate brothers. Like, it was bad. It was sick, like what he would do to them for his own entertainment. But I noticed something, like the reason why people like gravitated towards him is probably because of those characteristics that he displayed, the confidence, like
Mhm.
arrogance. He was very good at twisting the Bible and coming up with prophecies, and he would use that to his advantage to, basically make these members feel like, hey, my behavior is okay, because as long as what I'm telling you is correct, as long as I'm making you fall in line and make you want more, then you just have to accept my behavior that comes along with it, because I was put in this place by God. And I think that that's very dangerous behavior. And I literally remember one of his quotes. I remember one time he was talking to the gospel workers, and he had mentioned illustration. He said, you know what makes a good shepherd? He said, a good shepherd, he said, if you have like all these sheep, he was like, and if a shepherd comes up to the sheep and he's very nice, he's patting them, he's showing all these emotions to them and all that, but the food that he gives them is not good food, then even he can be as nice as he wants, but the sheep are just going to scatter and go somewhere else. But if a shepherd comes and this shepherd is tough, mean, smacks the sheep on their head with the stick, like does all these brutal things to them, but he has really good, tasty food, then they love him. And when he said that, in my mind, red flag. I'm like, bro, what are you? You're basically justifying your actions, right? Through the Bible, right? You're trying to use an analogy that's not biblical, but you're forcing the interpretation. It really reminds me of this lady that you're talking about. It's very creepy, but it's also, it's important to talk about because there's a lot of people in leadership positions that are like this. And one thing that I've learned from talking to so many members and so many leaders is that a lot of these people who are in leadership positions in the World Mission Society, it amplifies, like if they're jerks coming in, it amplifies and magnifies that 10 times fold. And it's pretty crazy, like how some of these people turn out once they're in the WMSCOG. And then it's like when you leave, I've seen some leaders leave and they're like, man, like that wasn't even me. Like, I don't know what was going on. And so it's all over the board, but like literally what goes on mentally in the member's head, whether you're a leader, whether you're a common member, like, man, it's so screwed up because I also think about like leaders, they're also trained to be strict, right? You have to be strict. And so it's just so crazy the way that they mess with people's mental. It's just wild to me. But anyway, go ahead, Zykera. So what else do you remember? And again, like you said before, you can share the good, the bad, and the ugly. This isn't, if you have anything that you want to mention about the good times, feel free to do that as well, because we all had good times in there. You know what I mean? But I think we had good times despite the church, not because of the church.
That's
Um,
true.
but yeah, go ahead.
And then I'll just leave it with this last story in regards to deaconess. But there was another story where there was a sister who passed away from cancer, and I was confused because you know, I had the understanding that if you get Passover, you won't die. I didn't know the sister had cancer either. So I was just confused. And also, I was like sad because, I worked with the sister and, I had got a different job. So we lost contact. And I had went to her, crying to her and, missionary. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, did you hear the news? Like, Sister Priscilla, she passed away. I'm so sad. And she looked at me, she's like, sister, she wasn't even faithful. And I said, I understand that, but like, it's so sad. I'm so sad, actually. Like, she's like, yeah, but she wasn't even faithful. I was like, but I'm sad. Like, okay. I was honestly, I was just shocked that she said it. Like, I'm like, okay. And then she was like, anyway, father didn't come just yet. So, maybe she'll have a chance in the spiritual world. Maybe he'll preach to her, maybe it was just too many distractions here on earth. And then I was like kind of confused, like, huh? Like, I thought when you die, that's it. You know what I mean? And then also I was like, I'm confused too, because I'm like, she died and she could pass over. But when she said she wasn't faithful, then I justified like, oh, okay, yeah, well, she wasn't faithful. She didn't come. She came sporadic, like here, there, like she would like come during the feasts, sometimes. So I kind of justified like, oh well, she didn't really come like that. But yeah, when I think about like back on things like that, I'm just like, man, that church is so like messed up.
It's
Yeah.
that's whack, honestly. Like that is the worst thing that somebody can say to someone during that time, and it really shows you the heart of that individual. Because like you said, how, first of all, how do they know? How does she know what was in her heart?
Hmm.
And it really make it, that bothers me, because it also shows that even members that pass away, again, they're not supposed to. You kept Passover, you have the seal of God, you're supposed to be protected. We have evidence that shows the church said the members should be protected if they receive the Passover, if they keep the Passover, which is the seal of God. So nonetheless, she keeps it, she passes away, but then they try to make you as members like feel like, oh, this, if they passed away, it's because they weren't good enough, it's because they weren't doing the correct thing. Instead of having sympathy, instead of trying to be like a normal person, I feel like even people of the world are more humane than
Yeah.
that, have a more of a heart, are more, you know what I mean, they'd be more merciful to people in that kind of situation than that. And it's just horrible. It honestly reminds me of the story that Ron told when a member passed away at the church in LA, and the pastor told him, "Oh, just hurry up with you just make it quick, make the funeral quick." It shows you the heart and mind of these people inside this organization. And you're East Coast. We've heard so much about the East Coast, how strict it is. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, can you get into that a little bit, and then maybe we can jump into the red flags? But from like your perspective, what separates the East Coast from any other association in America?
Yeah. Yeah, East Coast, I think the East Coast are where we were really prideful and we want to be the best. They really instill that mind, be the best of the best. And one thing that was taught like a lot is a good leader is a good follower. Like not to question, to follow, you know. Um, and that if you have a question, put your faith in God and it'll come later on. And like the story of Abraham leaving and like not knowing where he was gonna go, he just left and obeyed. That kind of mentality is like instilled in us on the East Coast. So I feel like, members on the East Coast, they have a hard time like really finding fault in, I don't know, maybe like the doctrine because we're like instilled so much to like respect, revere your leader, you know,
Yeah.
until like you probably see something weird like in the leader, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, honestly, I feel what you're saying, because it really, one thing I've picked up from East Coast is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like it's more military like, like
Yeah.
soldiers. And
Yeah.
it's like in an army,
Heaven's own.
you're not allowed to question, you know what I mean, your commanding officer.
No.
And even through some of the treatment that you just mentioned, the way that you were treated and how some of these people are treated, we've heard stories like Corey's and, so many different people on the East Coast. Like, that is just crazy behavior. And again, it's because you're taught you need to always obey your leader. And it's like a military being ran by Daniel Lee on the East Coast, and so it's pretty wild to me. But anyway, do you have any other red flags that you want to mention, like, or just anything in general, like I said, good, bad, or ugly, any stories that you want to mention in your time in the WMS?
Yeah, so during when COVID hit, like a lot of people I guess were like falling away and I had no clue. I feel like I lived in like my own like little bubble. Like I didn't know like slander was happening or anything like that, like or slander, right? Or people were leaving the church because we were, I like they called like I remember seeing like General Pastor. I can't find the video anymore, but General Pastor had a sermon. He delivered a sermon and said COVID-19 is like the last plague before, you know, you know, entering Egypt. I don't know if you remember that, but it was like the plague of darkness or something like that
I
because
think so.
preaching halted and we couldn't preach anymore because COVID.
Yeah.
So like so I was really trying to like amp it up and like fill myself with the word of God and things like that. And at that time my sister actually came back to the church.
Really?
And yeah, but and then at that time we switched overseers. So it was no longer Paul Cha, it was John Casas. So it was a lot of changes happening. And there is red flags there too, but again, I just like equate it to me like a test in my life of faith. Like these are just tests in my life of faith. And what I mean by that is like, like John Casas style is like very different. Like and his wife too, they're just very different.
Could you explain to me the difference between the first leaders and then the second leaders? Because I have, again, from a Midwest point of view, I hear these names a lot, but I don't know much about them. So can you like kind of
Yeah,
explain to me what's the difference between the way that they lead?
sure. Like Paul Cha, he was very like you revere God kind of style, like militant, correct mindset, correct attitude, like don't think of like marriage. Like marriage was not a topic in the church at all. Boyfriend and girlfriend, that didn't exist. It was just focused on kingdom of heaven preaching. Like that's it. Kingdom of heaven preaching, commands of God. That's it. Like it like looking at brother side, it was for like forbidden. You felt like evil if you ever like made eye contact with the brother accidentally, you know what I mean? um but when John Casas came, it was like totally different. It was like so weird. Like um he complimented his wife. He was like so like proud, like she's beautiful, like kind of like thing, like flaunting almost. And he was like hands on, like one time like he had my hand in between his hand. He was teaching me how to pray. And I remember him like touching my hand. I'm thinking like that's like kind of weird, like I thought like men and women shouldn't touch,
Right.
like, but I was just like, this is a different style. I have to accept it. Another weird thing, like his wife was teaching like the sisters how to like change tags at Marshalls. I thought
What?
that was weird. I
Hold
never
on.
did it.
Change tags. What do you
Like
mean?
change the pricing on the
So she was teaching them how to steal, pretty much.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I didn't do it. I thought it was like weird, but again, I thought it was like a test in my faith because, and I just trusted them. Like, there's like this saying like tell them that God needs it. Like take the donkey and like tell them God needs it. So, God needs it. So like, I just justified it that way. But yeah, like
So
yeah,
what? I'm sorry to cut you off. What would have happened if one of those sisters would have got caught and got sent to jail? What do you think would have happened?
I don't know. I don't
My,
know.
this is this is what I mean when I say this church will have you do the most outrageous things, but if something happens, I've seen it happen before. I already know what's going to happen. I have friends here in Wichita that went to jail for something that they were proven innocent of later, and when they went to jail, the church scattered. They abandoned them.
Wow.
And it just shows you again, like this place will be quick to get you into trouble. They won't be there when it's time to get you out of trouble. That's
Mhm.
just wild to me. I'm sorry because that again, I know you guys went through that and the sister, but this I'm glad I asked you that question because changing price tags is against the law. This you guys could have been prosecuted for that. You know what I mean? You're criminal. You guys could have got a criminal record. You know what I mean? Like that's nuts to me. But anyway, go ahead, continue. What else did they have you guys doing?
My sister actually shared shared that with Daniel Lee. She reported it, because she thought it was wrong. And he said if it's for the glory of God, it's okay. Yeah.
That,
But
that's their
and
profit.
yeah, but yeah, but he was different. Like I remember like my car broke down on the side of the road and there was this nice young man who helped me like with my car. And then I went on about my business. I went to we had a family day and I told John Costa, he's like, "Why are you late?" Because I was a team leader at the time. I was like, "Oh, my car broke down." And I was like, "But this guy, he stopped and he helped me." And then he looked at him, he was like, "What color was his eyes?" And I'm like, "Blue." He's like, "You found him attractive? You thought he was cute?" And I thought it was weird because I was just like, are you supposed to talk like that? Like, Pastor Paul would never, you know? So I was kind of thrown off, but I was just like, oh, like, this is how family talk. Like he's trying to teach us how to be normal human beings and be family. But yeah. But anyway,
Oh,
but
that's
there but there was like I guess like there's two sides to John Casas. If he liked you, he liked you. He was tough on me. I don't know why, but he was real tough on me. I was always rebuked, but I was rebuked a lot. But um, there's two sides to him. If he liked you, and you were being used. If he did not like you are nothing. And yeah, I experienced that because my sister, she had actually come like during COVID, she came back. So she came back, but John Costas wanted us to be separate, like have our own faith. She goes to Meriden, and I'll be in Middletown. I'll be in the main church, and I'll be a leader there. So we did that, and I felt bad because, it's my baby sister, and I wanted her to be with, next to me because I felt like I didn't want members to treat her, badly. And the reason why I say that is because, when you like fall away and then come back, it's hard to get back into the groove of things. Like people look down on you almost, like, you know, and that's exactly what happened. Like, members didn't treat her nicely. Like they didn't trust her with new people or like she was set to do flowers and then they said, no, you can't do flowers. Like a deaconess said that she was able to do the flowers and then they like told her, no, you can't do flowers when John Costas came, like every like thing changed. Like there was a pastoral change. And so they made her like basically like start over and I guess they were like not treating her well. And I was trying to tell her like, talk to the leaders there. And anyway, because of it, she ended up falling away again. And now I'm devastated. I'm devastated because like God already gave you a second chance and now you're falling away again. There's no way you're able to be forgiven again. Now, like I'm crying when she told me she's like, I'm not gonna go back. Like, she's like, I feel like Esau. Like no matter how hard I try, I can't obtain like forgiveness. There's just no hope for me. And like I'm bawling. And I'm just like, no, like you can't give up, blah, blah, blah. I'm heartbroken. And I remember I called my group leader and I just told her, like, Jill doesn't want to, continue with her life of faith. Like, I'm devastated. I'm crying. I'm sad. I felt like, you feel like someone died. And she was just okay, sister, it's okay. And she's like trying to soothe me. And then she had John Costas call me. And he's like, sister, forget about her. She left father and mother. She doesn't care. Forget about her. She's like, don't worry. He said, don't worry. Father and mother is going to send you a suitable helper soon. And I remember thinking, like, I don't care about no suitable helper. And like, no, I can't forget about her. Like, I love my sister. And I remember thinking, like, is that mother's mine? Like, no. And I think I said, okay. And then I hung up and I was just like, no, like I can't do it. Like I can't forget about my sister. And I didn't go to Zion. I was leader. I didn't go to Zion for a week because I was sad. And also I was like because of that too, there was a lot going on. Like there was a big transition and like a lot was expected of me, like in that church. And I'm a team leader. I'm also like the team lead of Ayuba. And I was working with Deaconess Kim, and Deaconess Kim, she's like a firecracker, and I just felt so lacking. But then I felt even more lacking that my sister fell away again, and I felt like I should have helped her, whatever. And so I was just feeling like a lot lacking. I'm like, maybe this team leader thing is not for me. And so anyway, he So what happened was he stripped me of he had a deaconess talk to me, my group leader talked to me and said, oh, just, focus on your life of faith, da, da, da. And I said, okay. And like immediately after that conversation, I was taken out of the group meetings. And I was like, whatever. That following Sabbath, we had an education and a member, you get readers, you select readers, right? So a member came and gave me the mic to read, just reading for like, not for like, when he needs you to read a Bible verse, you get to read kind
Yeah.
of thing. So he saw that member gave me the mic. He said, no, in front of everybody. He said, no, take that mic from her, give it to someone else. And I'm like, okay. So like if you go on his like bad side, if you're done. And like especially like I feel like, when you hear that kind of like message from like your overseer, like towards a member, like I just felt like, man, they probably think like I'm like this dirty sinner, or I did something wrong because I was taken off as team leader and he said, no, take the mic from her, give it to someone else. I'm like, what did I do so wrong, like dang. And I remember writing Heavenly Mother, like, please, if it's your will, please remove him, da da da. Anyway, he was removed like a week later, not because of my letter, but it was because an accusation from a sister against him, and then he ended up switching to a different Zion. So
It seems like true God, not Heavenly Mother, actually answered your prayer and
yeah,
got him out of there. Because if he was doing something that he shouldn't have been doing, which I wouldn't doubt it, he sounds disgusting and he sounds like he's those type of. So again, let's highlight the bully mentality of the World Mission Society. We saw it a lot in Corey's interview, but again, I think it's important to point out, even with what happened with you, you were simply going to read a verse and in public, in front of everyone, for no reason. It's like, no, like they make this huge deal out of it. And you have to understand, if your current members, those who are in the church, they know they're doing this on purpose to humiliate you and to make you an example for the church, to not be put on their bad side. And like you said, in the members' mind, all they're thinking is, what did she do?
right.
She did
That's
something.
why I felt like, like, and I'm like, I didn't do anything. Like I had a moment where like my sister fell away. That's actually not a bad thing. I'm sad because she fell away. There's nothing wrong with that. So I thought it was just so weird. I'm like, anyway, whatever. Like it's whatever. He
Yeah.
left and then we got another overseer. And I was made team leader again. So, but yeah.
That's wild. So East Coast is, yeah. The more and more I hear from the East Coast, the more and more it sounds very militant. I'm kind of glad that I wasn't on the East Coast. I was on the West Coast, oh well, Midwest, and we were under Daniel Park, which is totally different. But it's very crazy to hear those type of stories. So share with me, because I'm sure that members are gonna, they always say, well, they only talk about, the bad times, and it's just salty, ex-members, you know what I mean? So tell me some of the good times, because there's got to be good people in all the Zions. That's got to be a fact, because there's so many people. I can name so many good people in the Zion that I was a part of, you know what I mean? But they're just lost in the sauce. So take me through some of the good times. What are some of the good memories you have there?
Um, so I do have a few members that, are still like close to my heart. Like Sister Raina. Um, I mean, like, what are some good times, I guess? you know,
It's
Doing the
hard.
flowers. Yeah, it is kind of hard because like when you put it in, like when you're out of it,
Yeah,
you realize you wasted so much time,
right.
and you realize like, wow, this wasn't even true. And I was like all those efforts that you did, all those efforts that I did, or those good times in the church. It was like you said, it was despite of, or it was almost like. kind of like fake
Yeah.
because it's just not true. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. I mean, I enjoyed doing the flowers. I used to do flowers
Yeah.
with the sister, and I enjoyed my closeness with one other sister who's still a member, and I hope that she can come out. Um, but yeah, I think the best thing that probably happened to me was probably my husband.
Yeah. That's awesome
Meeting
to
my
hear.
husband. Yeah.
At least, some good can come out of, bad situations. And, obviously, if we could have it our way, we would rather not have gone through all of that. But, I really do believe that, things are meant to happen for a reason, and it's one of those things that's very difficult, like because when you leave, you're like, man, I lost everything. But also, I feel like we give them too much power if we just like continue to just be mad and sad about it. Like it's okay to do that, but at the same time, we also have to do our best to to realize, like, okay, at least we're out now. And so doing what you're doing now is the best thing that you could possibly do, you know what I mean, given the situation. Because one, what I hear from members all the time is it's so healing to be able to tell your story, but also at the same time, you could be helping so many people. And it would be so cool, even if that person that you mentioned, hopefully she does watch this, you know what I mean? And I really hope that she realizes that, you know what I mean, that there is hope after you leave this place,
Oh yeah.
and it's one of those things where, like you mentioned, it's not easy to name, a lot of good times in there. I think it'd be probably more easier to name a few good people that you got along with, or that
Yeah.
went
I
with you
think that's yeah, exactly.
through the trauma.
Yeah.
But okay, so I guess now take me to, when did you start realizing that this church wasn't what they claimed to be? When did it start hitting you?
So, it wasn't until 2 years ago I got sick, and like something was like I was having like problems with my stomach, or I'm not going to go into detail, but I was sick, and I went to my overseer, and I told him, I'm like not feeling well, and just so like basically like I just need some time to like kind of heal. And then he had made a comment like kind of alluding to the fact like if it's your time, then it's your time. Maybe if father calls you early, then and I was like kind of thrown off, like what? Like I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to die. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just felt no peace in the fact that if I did, if it was my time to go, that I was ready, you know. So that was one. So now I'm like trying to like I was trying to figure that out. Like, oh my gosh, my health is like declining. And then also I had so many missions on top of not feeling well. I had so many missions. I was lead of flowers. I was in choir. I was a team leader. Um, I was in work mission. So I'm like doing all of these things. I was doing bookstore. I was doing so many things. And I remember going to my group leader, like not feeling well, and also like my team. Anyway, I'm not gonna complain about my team. Sisters were good, but there was one sister that gave me a really hard time. She was not nice, really hard. Yeah. And I'm sure she'll watch this video because she watches slander. But anyway, um, so yeah, I remember going to my group leader, and I just told her, I was like, sister, I'm not doing too good. I think I need to step down from, one of my missions. And she told me no. And then the next day she told me it was okay. But then the following like Sabbath, we had the sermon elder delivered was, you know, mother. There was a like an older elderly member went to mother and told her like, can she stop? She asked mother like, can I like, I want to step down from doing kitchen. And then mother told her that it is her shield, like that's her blessing, it's her shield, da da da. So, I got the message. The message was, suffer through, right? So, like, I'm trying to suffer through, my health is declining and I have all of these things I'm juggling. And I just felt like no one cared. I'm like, wow, no one cares. And then also I didn't have a peace of mind because like if I were to go, like, I didn't have confidence that I was going to go to heaven. That bothered me too. And I remember, but you also can't tell that to anyone. You can't, because you're not allowed to like really share like weakness, I guess. Like, you know what I mean? Because like saying those things is you're grumbling, complaining, or you have no faith. So I remember my sister calling me, the one that preached to me, who's no longer in the church. And I just like it was like a word around it. I just let it out and I just start crying. And I'm just like, I just told her because there's no one that would understand this. And I didn't want no one to tell on me like that I'm grumbling, complaining or anything like that. I'm like, I'm just so overwhelmed. I just don't feel like anybody understands. And like she says to me, Zykera, the church isn't true. And I said, what? She's like, I know you're going through like, she's like, I know that's probably gonna make you feel worse, but I don't think it's true. Like, I did a little research on it and I don't think the church is true. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, you can't just say, oh, I don't think it's true. How is it not true? And then she was like, I don't know. I just been doing some research and I'm looking in the life of Ansang Ho. She's like, because, she's like, my life is going really good, like really good. And she was like, I was watching this movie and it basically said like, it basically like, it, it kind of like alluded to like, kind of like, I can't, I don't know how to explain it. It was like The Life of Pi, that movie. And it like, the ending kind of made her question like, the church. It was like, and so it is with God or something like that. And so she was like, she's like, I've been out of this church for so long now. And she's like, but still, I hold on to like, there's a part of me that hold on to it. But I've never even did honest research about it. She's like, she's like, and so she's like, I started looking into it and she was just like, oh my gosh, like, I don't think any of this is true. And then she's like, but you just have to see it for yourself. And so I said to myself, I said, you know what? I don't think it'll hurt to have like some honest, like, research. I've never researched because I was told that you do that. If you eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and it's the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you will die. Like that's it, you know? And and then I went online and I think what did I do? I think I clicked on one of the Great Life Studio video and I thought it was like kind of I didn't believe it at first because appearance is everything for me. Like I feel like in the East Coast that like they teach like appearance is like everything, like the way you look. And Great List Studios, it was like dark, and Jordan was like, see, dark background. Everything was like dark and it was like gloomy. And I'm like, And then I also judge like, because I would not only like listen to the videos, but I would look up the member that said those things because I wanted to see their lifestyle. And so I just want to leave a message for those like who probably did like I did. God gives mankind free will. And if a person chooses to live their life whatever way they choose, that's their God-given right. Okay? Um, that does not mean that the church is true. Just because, oh, well, that member, they left and like now they're living a worldly life. Like, look at them. They just wanted to live like that. That's how they wanted to live. That's what their desires were. No, that's just them carrying out their God-given right of doing whatever they want. Like if God gives us free will, that's free will, right? They can just choose to live however, right? Um, because that's one thing that kind of like threw me off when I was like listening to the videos, like, oh, but they're not living a godly life, like, you know what I mean? So it wasn't until I actually started looking into like the life of Ansang Hong and you know, like the 37 years. I was taught 37 years. He did it perfectly. Not 36, not 38, but 37 perfect years. Okay, well, it wasn't 37 perfect years. It was 36 and 2 months. I don't care. And there on the East Coast, I don't know about you, but where I'm from, the church that I'm from, everything's very technical. Everything is very perfect, precise. You're the one that still instilled that in me. And the fact that things weren't like at like lining up, 666 also threw me off. I'm like, all right, the Catholic Church has a very good rebuttal to your 666. I don't know if you ever looked into that. And like even the Catholic Church says the irony behind the one who came up with this prophecy, Ellen G. White, if you add her name up, Ellen G. White, like the correct way, it will equal 666. How ironic. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, these are things I never like looked into and things like that. I don't know if that's making sense, but then I started like, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't think this is true. Like, have I literally wasted my time? Like, and what bugged me also, like, it wasn't just like, I was going, I was not feeling well, and then I was overwhelmed and things like that, burnt out. But it came to a point, like, I realized, like as I'm studying, I'm like realizing, like, this is a problem. I'm still Christian, by the way. I'm Christian. I believe in God. I'm still studying the Bible. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm perfect because I'm a sinner, yeah, but what started to bother me because as a Christian, I'm not gonna sit here and worship no false God. I'm just not. Like that's also a thing that you instilled in me too. Church of God is that all these other churches, they claim to have true God, but their worship is in vain. So I don't care about, Sabbath this, Passover this, Feast of God this. If you do not have true God, you're having me worship a true false God, there's a problem. So then I really like started to dig into it. Like I was like, I have to know like if this is true because there's no way that I'm going to knowingly worship a false God. No way. And then I had to like break it down to like my husband, and my husband is so crazy. My husband thought that I was demon possessed because that's what we are taught. If you go online, you search, you become like demon possessed, like, and so I'm like, I remember going on my knees and like telling him, like holding his hand, like, I do not have a demon, like, I'm not demon possessed. And he's looking at me like he was scared. And I'm just like, all right. I was like, you know what? Forget I even like said anything. Maybe there is something wrong with me. I'll pray to Father, Mother, da da da. And so I started to think like, oh, maybe there is something wrong. Maybe I did get like, maybe a demon did enter me. I don't know. Like, maybe I grumbled and complained too much. Why the heck did I go online? Now I'm doubting. But I just couldn't shake that. Like, yeah, no, what like I just couldn't shake like those chapters. I just couldn't shake the fact that there are things online that they never shared. Like, and the points that members were making, the ex-members were making were valid. Like we weren't told that they had. I would have never known that On Some Home had kids until someone said something about it, and then the church will tell you. Like they'll tell you things only when someone learns about it, and then they'll tell you, and then a prophecy comes. That's weird. Like that's not right. That's weird. And that's not why I like I joined this church. I joined this church because I thought you had true God. That's what you told me. That I will be blessed if I kept X, Y, and Z. But it's not true because if I'm worshiping a false God, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. So yeah, so I was like ready, like well, after a while, after I studied a lot, because I wasn't really ready. Because they I think they instill so much doubt, self doubt in you. Like even from the very beginning, like when we do Bible studies, I don't know. I didn't know about the Sabbath. I didn't know about King David. I didn't even know, like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know any of those things. So, like, you're already in your mind, like, what else don't I know? Like, please teach me. Like, I don't know anything. And that's what they also say. Like, we don't know anything. We're lacking. We're sinners. God chose the foolish, not the wise. So, I had to fight the thought of like self-doubt. Like, I had to fight. Like, I even put myself into therapy also because I was nervous that I was afraid that I was going to lose my mind because, that's what I hear. Like when people leave, they lose their mind. So I put myself in therapy. And like my therapist, would continuously say, trust yourself. Like, Zykera, trust yourself. Like I had a lot of self-doubt because of this church. And yeah, it took a while. Like, now I trust my gut for sure. But
Right.
yeah, I feel like I'm missing something. But
No,
yeah.
I think that what you shared already is great because it really shows like first of all, you mentioned one thing, even how you were saying towards the end, even when you talked to your husband, but you were like you mentioned it to him, but you were like, I might you even were second guessing yourself. You're like, what if I have a demon? What if this? What if that?
Mhm.
And it reminds me of how you started this story out being months in, and they instilled that same principle in you from the very beginning. When
Yeah.
they told you, right, when you were doubting about Ansan Hong, and they were like, no, that's your arrogance, right? Like in other words, it's an evil thing. Don't trust that. Even though your intuition was telling you otherwise, they tell you to suppress it, and it worked because even at that moment, right, when you're telling your husband, you had a perfect valid point of why you were mentioning these things to him, but you stopped yourself. That shows how deep this indoctrination, this brainwashing goes, that you didn't even trust yourself at that moment, right? And again, they fill in that void. They don't they call it doubt, but they say that doubt originates from somewhere demonic or evil. And I think that that is one of the sickest and cruelest things that they do because that is a good way to make people doubt their intuition or suppress it. And what a better way. There is no better way to make somebody stop researching than starting to panic and freak out thinking that they're demon possessed, all for the simple fact that they're doing their research. And
Mhm.
again, if an organization has to put this type of fear mongering in you just so that you don't Google them, that should be a red flag to anyone that this is not an honest organization. And the first thought that should hit your mind is, what are they hiding? Because if anyone tells me something like that, like, hey, I'm this, I'm claiming to be, if they make a great claim, they better have great evidence. If they make a great claim, but they say, don't Google me, hey, that's a red flag. Something's
Yeah.
not adding up. And
Right.
so it's just so crazy to me hearing you say that. So anyways, Akira, I want to ask you, take me to the best part. How did you finally end up leaving? Because you explained to me, you talk, you had this conversation with your husband, you're talking to him, but you're still doubting yourself. You're
Yeah.
still not 100% sure. You're doing a little bit of research. You're seeing things. You're starting to watch videos, but again, that brainwashing is deep in there. So what finally like flipped it for you? How was it that you actually finally left?
So it's crazy. I didn't realize like how crazy the situation was until I spoke to someone who was not a part of the church at all. Like I had like my husband thought I was like, demon possessed. He didn't really believe me. Like he thought like he was like he was like dead silent when I told him like I saw something online. He like froze. And I was trying to tell him and he was like froze and I was like, listen, I'm not demon possessed. I'm just like thinking like maybe this is something we should question. And he was just like basically like no. Um and but like still those things were bothering me. The things that I saw online, I was bothered by them. And I remember going to work and then like the following week and I just broke down in front of my manager. She asked me, she's like, is everything okay? And I just broke down. And it wasn't until I got it out, like saying my husband thinks I'm demon possessed. I thought saw this. Like when I started talking about like the church, I'm like, this is crazy. Like this is not normal. This is not normal, And she was like shocked, like, is this a church? And I'm like, this is something's wrong. And then now I really need to go in and go. And then that's when I went ham. And I looked at everything and I told my husband, I spoke to him and I was like, you know, I just want you to know that I'm Christian. I believe in God and that I need to know whether or not this is true. Like, I think it's okay for me to know whether or not this is true because my salvation it depends on it. Like I'm not gonna be here worshiping a false god and like we had the sermon started to rub me the wrong way. I remember after I was doing my research, um Elder Robert he was delivering a sermon. He was just like, many people regard father's coming a first time as very like a great sacrifice, because he shed blood and died on the cross. But actually, him coming a second time is much greater. Why? Because he came to a place that rejected him. So how much harder is it to come a second time from, to the place that people rejected him and that where he shed blood. So I'm like thinking like, oh my gosh, if he is not God and we are regarding Jesus Christ on the cross sacrifice as something like not, and like when you look into the history of this guy, he, the church depicts him, X, Y, and Z, but like no, he was living his best life. He was actually having a better time than I was. I had to be at the church every single day. I wasn't going out. I wasn't even celebrating my birthday. I wasn't going, they said he was poor or lonely and things like that. But he wasn't. Like he was living his best life. How could he be lonely if he left the church and he had 23 members follow him outside the church? He was never lonely. He had family. You know what I mean? Like stop, stop that. Like so it just started rubbing me the wrong way. So now I'm going in, and then my husband and I we made a deal. I will just, if I watch the slander, whatever the case may be, keep it to myself, and he's just gonna study the Bible, like study, 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 and that's what he did. He just studied the Bible, like I mean, he was like studying the Bible, and I would see him, like my husband, like when like elder would deliver a sermon, he'd be like writing and he'll be looking and he'll just be checking, checking, checking. And it's crazy because he, like, without me even sharing anything with my husband, he was just like, wow, nothing he's saying is in this Bible. Like, he's like, nothing he says supports it. He's like, if you read, actually, Jesus Christ gives the example. He just made his own thing up. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, that's what they actually say online. And then now I'm like, after a couple months, he's interested. What are they saying? He's like, because they, this is just him studying his Bible. So just that's why I put on my review. Just study your Bible, and you will see what we're talking about. He didn't look at any slander. It was me. And it wasn't until after he studied his own Bible, he was just like, yeah, something's wrong. And my husband's been in this church for 19 years, faithful, tech team. Like, he was also a team leader, whatever. But yeah, but it was hard because I just couldn't fake it. I couldn't fake it anymore. I was a team leader of the Yuba members, and I just felt so disgusted to I just felt I was just disgusted. Like these young, innocent college students had their whole life ahead of them. Like, one of my sisters, like her mom had like breast cancer and she like didn't want to call her because she was like really sad. And so she's trying to draw closer to Heavenly Mother. And I'm like, sister, call your mother. Call your mother and talk to your mother. And, like it's just like that place is just like not it. I just couldn't fake it. And I stepped down from all of my things. Like they could tell that something was wrong because I just couldn't fake it. I couldn't fake the smile. You guys lied to me. This is a lie. Like I'm not gonna say Ansang Hong and Zang. No, I'm not saying Heavenly Mother. I'm not saying things to follow. No, I'm gonna say thanks to God. When I would sit in the pew, I would say Jesus Christ. I would pray to Jesus Christ. But it took obviously a while. For it took like a couple months for me to like be like be like fully convinced like this is not it because again like the self-doubt, and that's why I put myself in therapy because like I had a lot of self-doubt. But anyway, but once my husband was on board, once he saw for himself through the Bible that then it was just like he was like, just be a little patient because he had his family in there and he wanted his family. He's like, I don't want to leave my family like in this church if it's not true. And so he was studying the Bible a lot, in order to share with his mom. And yeah, and it was kind of hard because, I had stepped down from I stepped down from team leader, I stepped down from everything, everything. I would go to service, but I would only go for in between. And I blamed it on my health. I can't do it. I'm not feeling good. But it was really because of that. And I remember, but before I stepped down though, it was like a month before I stepped down, they had sent out the NDA, like the our he sent out an NDA to all the leaders. He said, "Oh, we're gonna renew our NDA, well, our pledge. They call it a pledge, not an NDA, but it's an NDA." And I remember reading it, and off rip, the first sentence, it said, um I solemnly believe that An Sung Hong is the second coming Christ and Zanggeja is the heavenly mother. All right, I already have a problem with that. No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And then number 5 was like, I will keep secrets of the church. And I was like, that's weird. Secrets of the church. And then number 10 was like, if I buy anything for the church or if I break anything of the church, like I can't take it back, what I bought. And also I can't if I make damages to the church, like I have to pay back whatever they decide. And I was like, that's kind of weird. But anyway, I work at an attorney's office, so I brought it to an attorney's office and I had them review it. Because I just wanted them to tell me, like, explain to me. And he said off rip, like, anyway, he called me in his office at the end of the day. He's like, come, I want to talk to you about this. And he said, what is this? And he's like, where's this from? I said, oh, it's from a church. He's like, I'm gonna let you know from a father talking to his daughter, do not sign this. He's like, if my daughter came with this, I would say don't sign this. He's like, first of all, it's not even grammatically correct. Like an attorney definitely didn't write this up. There's so many spelling errors in this thing alone. He's like, basically what it's trying to tell you is like number 5 is conflict, number 10 is conflict. That's what I had a conflict too. It's basically saying like if you see something illegal happen in the church, you can't you can't bring it up in court, against them. And he's like, yeah, he's like, this will never hold up in court anyway. He's like, it's basically like a hush. It's like to keep you hush hush. He's like, don't sign it. So I approached my elder. I told him, I said, hey, I have a problem with this thing. Like I don't know about it. I don't really want to sign it. And he's like, what's the problem? I said, number 5, it says that I'll keep secrets of the church. I said, what secrets do you want me to keep? And he's like, you're a team leader. He's like, so it's just confiding you about things, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, so yeah, like those secrets, like I was like, yeah. I was like thinking like, all right, like he kind of weaseled his way out. I was like, but I'm like, that's not secrets of the church. I don't know, but I was like, but anyway, I still don't have secrets of the church. Anyway, I didn't sign it. I didn't hand it in. They asked for it. I didn't hand it in because you can't force that. So I didn't hand it in, and I stepped down from all my things. And yeah, it was like rough. Like people were definitely kind of probably looking at they were looking at me like I lost my mind because I stepped down from I like my whole demeanor changed. I'm not smiling. I don't want to participate in this. I want to like meh. But anyway, we had confronted the elder. Finally, he finally spoke to his mom, and it was crazy. Like his mom remembered everything, because they've been in it since for 19 years, since 2006. And she remembered to 2012. She's like, yeah. She's like, I remember they told us that was the last day. She was like, but I pushed it, I blame myself. But she's like, they told us, like all the things that we were bringing up. She was like, no, I remember. Like, I remember. It's true. Like she was just confirming. She's like, no, I do remember that. I do remember that. And yeah, anyway, we told her we're going to talk to the overseer. So we planned on meeting the overseer and we met him on Monday and we brought everything to him and it was like the weirdest thing. I'm telling you, it was weird. Like he he was saying like if you guys want to understand, like the missing chapters and stuff like that, you would have to study with a pastor, a Korean pastor, for a year.
For a
You
year?
know, for a year. And we're like, okay.
How does that make any sense? What does that have to do
Because he
with?
said he doesn't really fully understand. And we were like asking, like we were like questioning, like what were we saying? We asked about the like the missing chapters, and he's like, well, mother had them removed. And what he said about Jonah's prophecies, oh, like he's like, there was nothing wrong with that. Jonah's prophecies was fulfilled. And we're like, okay, all right, so Jonah's prophecy, it makes sense. Then why take it out? If it makes,
Wow.
it makes sense, like, oh, Jonah's prophesied, so he relented. And so it makes it, why take it out? Well, mother, mother, she's authority. And then she has the authority to do that, whatever the case may be. And we're just like, but she obviously made a mistake because people are falling away because of these chapters. So there's something wrong. There's something wrong. And then I forgot what other question we asked him, but I remember he got like so stiff. He's like, I believe on some Hong is second coming Christ. We're like, okay.
Like, bruh.
Like, okay. But yeah, it was like, yeah. And then we were like, all right, let's see, because it was a Monday. He didn't really he I mean, like Sabbath, he answered about Sabbath. He's like, yeah, we should keep the Sabbath, Passover should keep the Sabbath. We didn't really have like qualms about that. Anyway, now I feel differently about it. Like now I have a different understanding about, those dates or those days. But An Sung Hong and their life, like An Sang Ga, their life, and like just who they are and how honestly, when you think about it, what prophecy did they fulfill? Like there is no like when you read the Bible, there's no mention of Jesus Christ reigning for 40 years. It just doesn't say it. I'm sorry. It always says forever. Like that's a made up prophecy, and your made up prophecy, he didn't even fulfill it. I'm sorry. Like that's just, it is what it is. That's just the facts, you know? Um, but we went to the third day just to see what will happen. And he played audio sermon of Mother about the five foolish virgins. And basically it was just like a fear tactic for us to be afraid. Like five foolish and five were wise. He didn't like deliver a sermon, he just put that on. And my husband came to me. He's like, yeah, we're out of here. Like, we're gonna come back. He's like, this is a joke. He's like, first of all, like, the picture is just like, it's like, now the videos of Zhang Jia, she is just a still picture of her, because, she's getting older now. So, they want to see her get old. So it's like, this is just a joke. He's like, this is just a joke. So we told his mom we're not going back. And she said, neither am I. And we haven't went back.
Wow, what a great way to end that story because honestly, like the fact that you, your husband, and his mother, like the
And his
family left,
brothers.
and you said and his brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just amazing because like that's literally like best case scenario. You know what I mean? Like there unfortunately there's so many people, like I've heard so many stories of people that still have loved ones in there. Even me myself, I still have, family members in there, one. And so to hear you say that, it's very encouraging. And I'm so happy for you guys. And you seem like you guys are, in such a, better place now. And it's amazing to see that. Because like you started, like I said, even like getting to this point, it's so crazy from my standpoint,
Yeah.
starting this conversation, hearing you talk about it was stressing me out. And like now it's like I feel good, like I feel calm and
Isn't that
relaxed.
crazy? It's so
Yeah,
true. So
it's so
stressful. That place is so stressful. That place is like prison. It is. It's like
yeah.
it's so stressful, that place. I'm so even now it's a shame. Like it's a shame the what that like that weight that church puts on you. Like I feel so relieved. I have moments where I'm just like, wow, like I'm so happy I'm out of that.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Yeah, yeah, honestly, and I'm so happy for you guys. I'm so happy for you guys, and like you said, just hearing some of the stuff that you said, one really made me cringe, but also made me realize how insensitive these people are. Like you become so numb in there. Like there were so many times in your story where you mentioned like people passing away, people falling away, and all you hear is they didn't have faith, they weren't good enough, they weren't this, they you become so numb, you just accept everything, and it's so crazy to me. And I just love how you broke down like the whole East Coast, dynamic and everything. And I really enjoyed your story. I really believe it's going to help a lot of people. So I guess I have one more question for you, um, because we know that there's going to be members watching this. If you could give any advice to current members that will watch your video, what would it be?
Um, I think I kind of like said it. You know, I would say just do your research. I mean, like, just do your research, and if you're afraid to do research, study the Bible, and you will see exactly what we're talking about. And like I said, I'm still Christian. I still believe in God, and my motivation for everything that led up to like me leaving, I give thanks to God for allowing that. Um, but guys, if you really, the reason why a lot of members are in there, some are, it's because of fear, but others are because they have a genuine heart towards God and they really want to follow God. Then if you really, I speak to those who really, like, you really want to follow God, then understand that actually Ansang Hong and Sangyo Ja, they are not it. Like, they are not it. It was a hard pill for me to swallow, but once I like came to understand that, and then now I'm studying again because it takes time. Um, I feel much more like peaceful, like with life. Like life is just easy. Like, and it's just I can't even explain it. You just have to experience it. But I guess in a nutshell, just do your research. And if you're afraid to do research, pray about it, pray to Christ, and read your Bible, and you will see exactly what we're saying.
That's a great advice, because honestly, I know it's going to help so many people, because even hearing your story, I'm already seeing a lot of myself in you. Like I resonate with your story a lot, from you mentioning you didn't have peace with the health issues and like all of that. And even
Yeah. Your story is what got me, definitely, because I was just like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I feel or how I felt.
yeah,
Like no peace and like what the heck, why don't I have confidence that if I mean I've done everything. I didn't disobey or anything. Like I've always like listened and try to do the
yeah.
right thing and bear fruit, and I always try to do the right thing. I always try to make sure it's genuine from the heart and blah blah blah. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And I think that it's really cool because like I said, we all have our own journeys. And I've said this in all my videos, is I respect everybody's on their journey, when they first leave the church. But like you said, in the World Mission Society, it's a common narrative that when people leave, they're going to the world, they lost their mind, they're just sinning. And I think it's cool to see, some examples like me and your examples of people who still remain Christian. There's a lot more, but right now I'm talking to you, me and you, we are examples that we haven't lost our mind. We still are hungry for the word of God. We're still Christians, right? And I think that that's something that's very important to highlight, that you can still be a Christian even after leaving this church. And if also, if you don't want to be, or you're not ready, or you choose a different path, that's okay as well. But
that's
what I'm
your
saying
God's
is
given right.
the narrative that the WMSCOG spins on the members is totally not true. And I think you're seeing it here today, because like here you really look like you're so much at peace. I could literally see it. I
I
could,
am.
yeah,
I can take a plane and be fine.
yeah,
Whatever happens, happens. It's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's totally different. It's a 360. Yeah.
I appreciate your time very much. Thank you for sharing your story. And to all those who are listening, I hope that you guys will benefit from this video. I'm sure you will. Please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Diffusing the WMSCOG.